Unrivaled's first season has officially come to a close. It was very exciting, especially the one-on-one tournament. We saw Aaliyah Edwards go all the way to the finals to go up against Fee, being pretty monumental in this day and age, so we really enjoyed that as fans. And a lot of players seemed to enjoy it, especially across other sports, so that was really fun. I would say it brought some special attention to the league, seeing as now they're also listing Steph Curry as an investor for Unrivaled. As the season came to a close, the last couple of weeks were focused on the playoffs and which teams would make it. Out of the 6 teams, only 4 would go into the single elimination playoffs. And in the end, the Phantom and the Mist will miss the playoffs. Coming out of the gate, both teams really weren't that great, especially on the scoreboard. One of the best games the Mist actually played was the first one, and that was against the Owls. And you really got a lot of good action from Jewel Lloyd, probably because she was going up against Skylar Diggins-Smith, but in the end, they still lost that game. They did have a lot of early injuries in the season. The first game they had everybody, but by the second or third week, they had lost Dejanay Carrington and Jewel Lloyd. This was really one of the powerhouse teams in the league, at least starting out. One of the founders teams, Brianna Stewart, Courtney Vandersloot, they were pretty well stacked. Even having some of the young blood with Rakia Jackson and Aaliyah Edwards, the Miss were one of the favorites starting out. Pretty quickly, they just started losing a bunch of games. Something about their playstyles just never seemed to work out. It was pretty obvious early in the season. They got some help from Nylissa Smith, but they really couldn't turn it around. It was tough watching Jewel throughout the season. She tried to find a rhythm, couldn't really get there. Brianna Stewart seemed, sluggish from the beginning, but tried to bring some energy there towards the end. As one of the founders, I'm sure she wanted to do better, but really with this being more of an off-season league for the WNBA, I'm pretty sure she's okay, especially coming off that championship run. But the Miss are just an example of, even if you have a star-studded team, something like Unrivaled can still be pretty difficult to win. Now, the Phantom also had some trouble out the gate. I think they lost their first 5 or so games. But most interesting with this team is obviously their roster. Sabrina Ionescu came in very last and ended up on this team, but was really still recovering from injury and had so many other prior engagements with the WNBA and other endorsements. She was kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out. They also had to play a majority of the season without Marina Mabrey, which means they played a few games with Natisha Heidemann as one of the reserve players. And it seems like when they first started out, they were trying to make sure the ball went through Sabrina Ionescu and maybe a little bit of Sabali. But because Sabrina wasn't really there, eventually they started working it through Griner, especially considering Natasha Cloud and Brittany Griner probably had a little more chemistry than everybody on the team, including Sabali and Ionescu. So that was an odd team to watch throughout the season. They had some fun moments, especially watching Katie Lou Samuelson kind of ball out in a few of those games. And of course, Griner got the first dunk for the league. But kind of like the Mist, they couldn't really find a rhythm. They didn't really work all that well together, especially in this format. For the most part, these WNBA players got a really good offseason. They got to stay in shape, get up and down the court, play with some of their future teammates, especially with the next couple of years. The league will change dramatically, so who knows who'll be your teammate or what team you'll be on. The Laces out the gate ended up being a force. They were really, really strong. They were the only other team besides the Owls that went undefeated for a pretty good stretch. This team really does work well together for some reason. The way AT plays, the way Tip plays, the way Kayla McBride plays. They gave Kate Martin a lot of wiggle room to play and just do her thing out there. So the Laces were really, really strong starting out, and then injuries hit them very, very dramatically. AT went down first. Then you lost Tiffany Hayes after a collision, so she had to be out with the concussion protocol. Kate Martin kind of exacerbated a lingering injury, so she was out for a little while. I think it's good that Kate Martin and Tiffany Hayes got to play together. They will be the faces of the Valkyries more than likely. You got a lot of good time out of Kayla McBride. The Laces were just really fun to watch for most of the season, just how they played together selflessly. You saw the ball move around a lot. They played really, really fast, especially with Tiffany Hayes. So at first they were really a lock for the playoffs, and then towards the end, the team just wanted to get back to their original form and make it to the playoffs. The Vinyl was another team with really, really high hopes coming in. Ryan Howard, Arike Gumbawale, Dearica Hamby. This was just a powerhouse team on accident without even trying. This was supposed to be a really good team. They have a lot of 3-on-3 experience, especially with Dearica Hamby and Ryan Howard playing together on the Olympic team. So at least for me, I thought they were going to do a lot of damage. Jordan Canada getting to play with Ryan Howard was really good for the Atlanta Dream, especially going up against their teammates now, Alicia Gray and Brittany Griner. But something was going on with this lineup and this team from jump. Teaspoon really did try to get some different energy coming from this team, but it was odd almost from the beginning, and it was like their scoring got them through a lot, and then defense showed through, and they just started losing game after game after game. So they did make it to the playoffs. It'll be interesting because they're going up against the Owls, the heaviest team in the league. So it's almost a given just how they've been playing and how they're going into the playoffs. The Rose ended this season insanely good. I love the connection Angel Reese and Chelsea Gray have cultivated over Unrivaled. It's really cool to see their play styles match up very, very well, especially in this format. So this team really turned it around after kind of a shaky start. They didn't lose a lot of games in the beginning, but they didn't really seem cohesive. And then towards the end there, it's like they figured it out insanely well. Chelsea Gray being the head of the snake and really leading the team through everything. Angel Reese putting her stamp on the league and really being a dominant force there towards the end. Still really good at rebounding, but working on her putbacks and layups with Lisa Leslie, and really just being an all-around good teammate with the Rose. So not only did she ball out in the league, but she earned a lot of respect from her peers in the W. The Lunar Owls. The Lunar Owls went almost undefeated, getting that only loss from the Rose. Skylar Diggins-Smith, Alicia Gray, and Nafisia Collier ended up being the death lineup for Unrivaled. They really had it going. SDS would be the floor general. Alicia Gray would be running and gunning, ready to hit the three from the corner. Nafisia Collier held down the paint, or even a quick midi after a quick pass. They were really playing non-stop when they were on the court together. They also had Courtney Williams coming off the bench, so that was a good links connection there for this team. At the same time, Cameron Brink was supposed to play on this team, and they haven't played with her at all this season. She's still recovering from injury, as she should for the W, but they didn't play with any reserve players or have any trouble down the line. Shakira Austin represented for the youngsters. So while on purpose being a powerhouse team, this is one of the founders teams, they ended up being extremely good. The way they play together is crazy. In this 3-on-3 format, it's perfect. And I don't know, maybe 5-on-5 for the Owls, but this was just a really good lineup. They played well throughout the entire season. They earned that #1 spot in the playoffs. Single elimination playoffs are insane. It really is some March Madness. And honestly, similar to the WNBA, their first playoffs were single elimination as well. So I guess it's pretty normal for inaugural seasons to do that. Unrivaled may keep it. They seem to like the chaos though. Watching Unrivaled in the games was absolutely great, but my favorite part was watching the players evolve and work on their game and increase their stock value. Namely, Aaliyah Edwards, right? Taking it all the way in the 1v1 tournament, she got a lot of exposure from the fans, the league, and other big names. We got to see Jordan Canada carve up her opponents every time she got the ball at the top of the key. Lexi Hall got to shine and got the green light from her team, so we got to see what she could do. Kate Martin got so much trust from the Laces. She was out there playing with full confidence. Stephanie Dolson, a vet and well-known player, we got to see her play, but she plays on the Mystics, and even with the WNBA's minimal TV schedule, they're barely on TV. So we got to see why she earns one of the highest checks in the WNBA as well. Same for her Mystics teammate, Brittany Stykes. She is crazy good on defense, just a ball of energy. And even if I have seen her play at another time against another team and just didn't recognize it, Unrivaled allows you to zoom in so much. It's only 6 players on the floor. So when you do start to see players like Stephanie Dolson or Brittany Sykes and you become a fan, you're able to watch them even more and enjoy the game even further. We got to see more from Kayla McBride, who's a monster, by the way. Even after watching her in that finals run in the WNBA, this was just a crazy showing. She is the definition of toughness on a floor like this. And giving her more space and more freedom just meant more points and power plays from a player this active. We saw the engine go to work until she went down with an injury. But playing with Tiffany Hayes, we got a blast from the past. With their chemistry and how their playstyles work together, it was a match made in heaven for this team. We saw Satu Sabally after coming back from an injury and working through the last piece of the WNBA season on the Dallas Wings. But she obviously wasn't happy, and those first-class facilities in Unrivaled definitely helped that decision to go to Phoenix. But she got a lot of time to work back from injury and trust her body on her own terms. You got to see Dejanay Carrington working on her 3, Angel Reese working on her putback and layup game, Sabally working through that more active role she's sure to adopt in Phoenix, Chelsea Gray was getting back to form, and even Natisha Heidemann playing on multiple teams We saw a few highlight plays from her, and why she's a top reserve player. Even showing some love to legends like Lisa Leslie and Candace Parker. We got Renee Montgomery with a lot of the analysis, so they were really putting out the feelers and doing this right for women's basketball. Now going into the playoffs, we have the Laces versus the Rose and the Vinyl versus the Lunar Owls. Now in the beginning of the season, I would have said the Laces got this, no problem. And then they went through that injury phase, and that break in the season didn't really help the team. They really haven't looked the same since. Now most of the team is back, so they have a little momentum, but they'll still be missing Kate Martin, so it's really just going to depend if they can play back to true form. Now the Rose have been cooking the league. These last few weeks, they've been unstoppable, and they gave the Lunar Owls their only loss of the season. Angel Reese and Chelsea Gray have developed a hell of a connection out there. So not only is the point guard feeding Angel Reese, but she's also rubbing off on Angel, as Angel is starting to rack up those assists too. Lexi Hall has emerged as a true threat for her team, coming in clutch when they need her to. And at the same time, the Rose went on this run without Kalia Copper. So it's even harder to imagine that they got this strong midway through the season. Now, if they lost Angel with this wrist injury, it's probably going to go to the Laces. She really has become a dominant force in the league. But if the Roses can't feed through her or depend on her on defense, it's not really going to be that tough of a matchup for the Laces, because they really are the tougher team. Now, at some point, they did lose everyone, or almost everyone. They really only had Kayla McBride and Stephanie Dolson at one point. They had to play with almost 3 reserve players, but Nigel Hamilton, Letitia Heidemann. It got so bad at one point they had to forfeit that game against the Vinyl. So it's harder to gauge them now, but if Angel is okay, playing at 100%, not fighting through the injury, but okay, then we'll probably have a really good game on our hands. And it's hard to say who would come out on top. I'm a big Laces fan, but I also think the championship would be insane if it's the Rose versus the Lunar Owls, which again is single elimination, and the Vinyl have to go up against the Owls, which will make it a really tough game for the Vinyl. They just really haven't been playing that well together. They try and go through Ryan Howard a lot, and for some reason that just does not work out for them. De'Erica Hamby can really get going, and she's had a couple of high-performing games, but it's like as soon as that starts going, they still switch it and try to get it to Ryan Howard. So overall with this team, I really just think it's the game plan and whatever Teaspoon has cooking up, as much as I hate to say that. Aaliyah Boston and Sweet Baby Ray do a lot of damage when they are on the floor, but they rarely see playing time. At some point, Teaspoon did try to play Ryan Howard off the bench, but for some reason that only made it worse. I mean, no matter what, it's only going to be 2 games left in the season if they beat the Owls. But the only way I can see that happening is with a crazy lineup change or just gameplay change. Whatever their plan is as a team, they need to switch that up a little bit. Maybe making Ryan Howard the third option will relieve a little bit of pressure from her, allow her teammates to shine, and maybe even confuse the Owls at the same time, because they've been unstoppable. Even the game they lost against the Rose, it was mainly because Fee was out a good chunk of that game. Kind of right in the middle of that game too. And the Rose did earn that win, don't get me wrong, but there's a reason the Owls only lost 1 game the entire season. I think SDS reminded the league and fans on who she is, and watching her in the one-on-one tournament was actually amazing. She plays to her strengths a lot and really tries to play the smartest way she can every time she's on the court. Alicia Gray was putting on a show every time she hit the court. She's such a well-rounded player and a fan favorite. So that's another one who was just fun to watch in the WNBA offseason, having that zoomed in, close look at what she's been working on. And it's Nafisa Collier's league, and she just lets everybody know it. It's been a really good showing for her, especially after losing in the finals. She'll probably get MVP unless she wants someone else to get it, like when she won the one-on-one tournament. She gave away almost half of the prize money. So just as a league founder and wanting to see the league move forward, she might let someone else have it, but at this point, it's hers to lose. I would say Chelsea Gray or someone like that. Like, besides Fee, that's just another player who's been dominant in her position regardless of who they're playing. So yeah, we'll get 2 really good games in the semifinals for the playoffs. It's definitely going to depend on some changes from the Vinyl and how hurt Angel Reese is. So as much as I love my Laces, it will probably be the Rose and the Owls in the finals, which would be chef's kiss for this league in its first season. The 2 best teams in the league at the end of the season going up against each other in a single game elimination. Perfect script writing.
Don't forget to like and subscribe, players.